Good. I think we now reached our level of maturation of our participation. So once again, welcome to the monthly webinar of the LGMA constituency. For those who joined new or for the first time, these are monthly or recurring webinars, usually every third Wednesdays. Time to time, we make some changes in the calendar like this one, because we wanted to make sure that this session is particularly focusing on our agenda at the upcoming UN Bonn Climate Conference, or SP62. These webinars are held in 2 time zones in order to enable participation or dialogue with all hemispheres. In the morning, we had our session with our colleagues in the Eastern Hemisphere and now in the Western Hemisphere. The sessions are recorded, and then you will receive your recording material as well as the presentation. These webinars are usually lasting for around 1 hour, and in the first 30 minutes or so, we go through the presentation, and we encourage participants to come back with their question and answer in the Q&A session. But if there's any burning points, feel free to type in the chat box that we can take note of it. And during this agenda, according to the agenda, we may have guests and partners of the LGMA constituency. And today, I am really delighted to inform you that the Ambassador da Costa, Antonio da Costa, the Ambassador of the Brazilian Minister of Cities, will be joining us shortly in the next few minutes, especially to share his reflections from the announcements in the latest UN Habitat Assembly, with a particular view on the preparations towards Belém in combination of the urban agenda and how we will go forward. So with that in mind, let me kick off our agenda. Again, usually we had time between these webinars, like around 3 to 4 weeks, which gives us the chance that we can review what happened from the last webinar. But since there are very few things happened in this couple of days, we will not go too much on the agenda. We will focus only the UN Habitat Assembly outcomes, and then we'll continue with our vision letter and agenda in Bonn. So for those, again, familiar, we are the voice of subnationals, the towns, cities, regions, states, in the UNFCCC process since '95. We are following this process since its inception. We have around more than 60 networks who are accredited to the UNFCCC, but we're also reaching out to our partners who do not necessarily follow this procedural accreditation, so that we can have inclusive methods so that we can make everyone's voice heard. We participate in the negotiations by submitting our comments. We support the champions action agenda. We collaborate with the presidencies so that we hand over the continuity of the presidency agendas. And we, of course, work with the parties, because they are the ones who decide and draft the decision so that we can provide our inputs. These webinars will continue throughout the year. In addition to those webinars, we also recommend you to subscribe to our bulletins, which gives you the chance that you can also read with the appropriate links to the discussion we had here and keep it for your reference as well. We're talking about 30 plus years of our advocacy agenda. We had the first couple of years of our, let's say, relatively less active engagement because the recognition was not there. On the way to Copenhagen, we run an ambitious agenda to ensure local and regional governments are recognized, engaged, and empowered. The first phase was after the Copenhagen failure. We did not give up. We continued our work, and our first results were in the Paris Agreement, in the preamble paragraph, recognition of all levels of governments. And then we continued further, especially since Glasgow. We have been rolling up enormous numbers of agendas inside and outside the UNFCCC, and we have key decisions like in Dubai, the stocktake recognized paragraph 161. There is also reference to cities in the global stocktake on adaptation. And in Dubai, after Dubai, in Baku, we continued. We had also key outcomes in urbanization and mitigation area as well. Our website contains the previous engagement. We can find our engagement mainly in the blue zone, the negotiations area. Our videos, daily bulletins, our position papers are all accessible, and our leaders' voices are also visible. And when we go to the UNFCCC, our prominent space is our home, for global stage for multi-level action and urbanization pavilion. Last year, we enjoyed partnership with the Azerbaijan State Committee of Urban Planning and Agency and Turkish Minister of Environment and Urbanization, together with Zero Waste Foundation, Bloomberg Philanthropies, and the İl-Bank of Turkey. And we look forward to continuing similar dialogues with Brazilian government, and you will hear also more the latest updates from Ambassador da Costa. Let's remember, COP30 will be the moment where we will build upon the outcome from both Dubai and Baku, because it's a continuity of these processes. Dubai was more than the stock take, and the finance commitment, and for us especially the mitigation commitment, was also crafted. So it's a package. So the success will be shaped with how much we advance on that, and above all, more importantly, the new climate plans, well, hopefully prepared with the multi-level collaboration, is the key that will make a success. This is a cyclic process. Presidencies have delegations. Usually around this time of the year, the outgoing presidency hands over most of the tasks to the incoming presidency. You see the Brazilian delegation in the leadership and their mandates and their envoys announced. So Brazilian government is fully ready with all their teams. They have circulated letters, and in Bonn, they will have a huge presence, including Ambassador da Costa, you will hear shortly. This year, presidency also introduced special envoys, and 3 of them are relevant for our constituency: Philip Young, Jurama Vernak, and Marcelo Brito. Especially Philip Young is an urbanist, and we just had a dialogue with him yesterday, and a number of other partners are also talking to him. We believe he will introduce very, very exciting vision so that he can support the presidency, but also we will also benefit, and he will hear more from us. And we are so happy to hear that he will be in Bonn, together with Dan Iosh, who will be joining our reception at the Old Town Hall. We all say that the success depends on the national reports. So far, around 30 of those national reports are presented. We have seen promising examples of good practice by the champ endorsing countries and some of the others. Obviously, there's around 170 plus countries whose reports are yet to be prepared or submitted. That's why the Bonn meetings will be instrumental so that we can feed into the preparations, especially by introducing multi-level action and urbanization as the new game changer of the success of these new plans. We are following this agenda at multiple fronts. We are participating in the global meetings like G20, G7. We are attending UNFCCC and UN events, and our own LGMA constituency work. That's a combination of all these processes. Here, as we said, we summarized, especially May was intense with a number of meetings like in Copenhagen, but also in Brazil, the LGMA National Coordination Group, and a number of progress have been achieved, like Panama Climate Week. Here in May, June is particularly very intense. There will be meetings in Berlin. There is already ongoing processes on ocean dialogue and ocean conference. After Bonn, there will be the meetings in Paris and London. And in the end of the month, there will be the finance meeting in Sevilla. So these will all shape how we will land into Brazil in Belém with the decisions. Meanwhile, parallel to this process, there is an intense debate on the UN reforms, which was already started 5 years ago when the UN was celebrating 75 years of anniversary. But with the budget cuts, the UN institutions are feeling much more the need. And in some cases, like this kind of extraordinary moments, this could turn into an opportunity. So there's a lot of discussions about merging of some institutions, readjustment of the duty stations, which will all impact the way we engage with the climate action beyond Belém. And that's why we are particularly interested to hear how we can come up with Belém outcomes. And with this, I'm very happy to inform you that at the end of May, the UN Habitat Assembly convened. There was the main agenda was their strategic plan, but it was also an opportunity to summarize what will be the agenda from Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, Dubai, Baku. And in this event, we are very happy to have this ambassador level in-person meetings there hosted by the Executive Director of UN Habitat, Ana Claudia Rosbach. And on behalf of the local governments and municipal authorities constituency, it was Gino van Begin providing an input. But more importantly, we received fantastic video messages from both Minister Jader Filho, Minister of Cities, and Ambassador Delago from the COP30 presidency. And with this, I'd like to invite now Ambassador da Costa, especially that he has been playing an instrumental role in bringing this leadership. He has been intensively working with us. Those who are familiar, you may remember his video in March when there was the kickoff of this journey in Brasilia. Now we have the advantage and the honor to have him live interacting with us. Ambassador, without further ado, the floor is yours. We're eager to hear your reflections.
Thank you very much, Yunus, and thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this event. The honor actually is mine. I am extremely, let's say, I'm hoping that we will have what Minister Jader Filho has been insisting on, not only a forest COP, a COP of the forests, but also an urban cities COP. Minister Jader Filho has been making this point strongly since he took office. He participated in our urbanization and climate meeting in Dubai in 2024. He was very eager to ensure that we will have a even more meaningful ministerial than the one that we had in Dubai and in Baku, in Belém. And he has been actively pursuing that idea, as he has pointed out in the video that the photograph is right there. As soon as Ambassador Correa do Lago took office earlier this year as the designated president of COP30, Minister Jader Filho, who has a relationship of friendship with André, actually met with him, invited him for a coffee here at the Ministry of Cities. And we discussed the importance of having a strong presence of subnational governments at Belém in COP30, that their voice could be heard in a more structured way, to a certain extent, responding to what the LGMA constituency actually pursues. And I think Minister Jader Filho, I would say, would be, I would say at this point, an honorary member of LGMA as far as his views are concerned. He was also very keen on two ideas. As you know, he was instrumental in ensuring that Brazil endorsed the CHAMP platform also early on in 2023, even before the COP28 in Dubai. We endorsed it. He was the one who actually did the legwork in convincing other areas of government of the importance of ensuring that Brazil would not only endorse, but would, let's say, internalize the principles of CHAMP. As you are aware, we have done that very strongly. And one sign, it's only one sign, it's not the best example, is the fact that the NDC that we published immediately before COP29 in Baku, you saw there's a box, actually, the only box in that NDC is speaking about climate federalism and CHAMP. So we are very engaged in that, let's say, multi-level action agenda, okay? I think it's not only that agenda that we are engaged in. Minister Jader Filho is convinced, and I think he is, I fully endorse his view in that regard, that we need to strengthen a discussion within the normative process of the UNFCCC, the Paris Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, on the urban dimensions of the climate crisis, both mitigation, adaptation, finance, just transition. The minister has been pointing out, for instance, that there is no climate justice if there isn't urban justice, okay? So I think he has made this point very strongly, highlighting the need to look into the urban. It's not just a question of cities only and local government. So there is a, let's say, a governance dimension, which I think is important. Certainly, it is aligned with our concern with the localization of and territorialization of SDGs as a whole, and the climate is not an exception. It's actually should be a rule. But I think that Minister Jader is also very concerned on the need to ensure that UNFCCC processes not only the convention but the protocol and the agreement, Paris Agreement and the Kyoto Protocol address the urban dimensions of the climate crisis. Let's call it that way, in all its aspects. Within the discussions, the normative negotiate, it's not just a question of an action agenda. Sure, the action agenda is important, and as you are, I will address it immediately, as you are aware, but I think it's also from the normative point. You actually shared with us the new special envoys, and you highlighted the three ones that you think are significant. I have yet to speak to Jurema and to Marcelo. I think it is important, the conversation that we will have with them, but let me just point out the fact that, as you are aware, we have a number of initiatives related to informal and settlements and marginalized urban communities within this ministry, and we think these are critical. We need, within the urban agenda, to pay particular attention to the marginalized community, because those are the communities that are more vulnerable to the climate impacts, and therefore those are the ones in which we need more, let's say, urgent action in terms of the adaptation agenda, and certainly it should be a strong component of any conceptualization of the just transition, and I think it is important to address that. And as you are aware, this ministry has been working strongly with the IDB in the Forum of Amazonian Cities. Again, the same idea. Yes, the forest is important, the Amazonian forest, tropical forest is important, but in Brazil at least, and I think Brazil is not an exception, people live in cities, and the Amazonian region is no exception. We have made a study by which we believe 70+% of the people that live in the Amazonian bioma within the 8 countries where the bioma is present live in cities, small, medium, and large. And in the case of Brazil, what we're looking at, again, the urbanization, let's say, component, is that we need to, one, address the problems and issues that larger cities like Belém or Manaus, in the case of Brazil, are already confronted, particularly in terms of informal settlements and marginalized communities, but also try to already address and avoid to repeat the same mistakes that we have done in these larger cities, in the smaller and medium-sized cities, because those are the ones that are showing, at least if we look at the most recent census, the more dynamic growth, okay? Let me address the action agenda for a moment, okay? The Minister Jader Filho in his video already told that we are committed to have a cities pavilion at Belém. We are still discussing with COP presidency what will be the format of this pavilion. I believe on the 20th of this month that the president of COP30 will announce at Bonn during the SB 62 what exactly will be the final format of the action agenda, okay? So I will not anticipate to you many things, because I think that belongs to André Correa do Lago, and I know for a fact that he is finalizing the minutia of those questions, but I think it is important for you to know that we are hoping that the issues of urbanization and multi-level action will be addressed at the action agenda during the whole days of COP30, okay? From day one to the final day, we will have a structured plan to discuss these issues, either within the ministerial that we will be putting out, round tables, other events. We are really engaged in trying to have a strong urban component in the action agenda and a strong multi-level component in the action agenda. I have spoken at length with Philip Young. I think it would be great in your next LGMA event if you would invite him. I imagine that it would also be great to invite Jurema and Marcelo, as you have pointed. But Philip, I think the interesting thing about, well, Philip is an old friend. And I was really happy to see not only that we have a special envoy for urban solutions, because that is the title, special envoy for urban solutions, but also that as I asked him to present his views, and what I found striking is that I could just sign under them and share them. I didn't have to discuss anything because we're fully aligned, or at least I am fully aligned with the special envoy, and I think that is great. Okay, he will also be in Berlin. I think in Berlin and Bonn. I'm sorry, he will also be in Bonn, and I think his intention in Bonn is to put his ears clearly in synchrony with what all the people interested in this urban agenda and multi-level action agenda are saying, but particularly the urban agenda. So I think those of you from LGMA who will be in Bonn during at least the first week, because my understanding is that he will be there in the first week, please look him up. He is very interesting conversation and a very good listener, very, very good listener. For those who might not be there but might be joining the London Climate Week, my understanding is that he told me he will also be in the London Climate Week, again, with the same purpose, to listen, to understand, and then clearly to provide COP30 presidency with inputs in terms of what we want to do. I will still need to engage with Jurema and Marcelo. I hope to be doing that when I come back from Bonn. If they're not there, and I don't have an opportunity to meet with them there. But finally, and I want to stress this very strongly. Both Ambassador André Corrêa do Lago and Minister Jade Filho share the view of the importance of the multi-level action and on the urban agenda. So we have, with the COP president and with my minister, strong allies to this agenda. And I think this might not be unique to this COP, but certainly highlights an opportunity that we have to push forward the interest of LGMA that LGMA have been pushing forward since its inception, both in terms of the action agenda. I think it's important to have a strong, robust action agenda during the days of COP30 in Berlin. But, and this I want to point out, towards Berlin and after Berlin. I have spoken with Yunus already on this. I think Berlin is just one step. We are really happy to have COP30 in Brazil. We are really looking forward to host COP30 in Berlin. But I think it is a process. Berlin is just one link in this process, maybe an important link. We hope that is a link in which we change gears, both in the multi-level action, but particularly strongly in the urban solutions, both mitigation, adaptation, just transition, finance, all areas of the normative discussions. A final say for those of you who are already thinking on what will happen in Berlin. You have read the letters that Ambassador Corrêa do Lago has put forward, I hope. If you haven't, please do, because they reflect strongly his views, and they have been thought as a way to engage a conversation with the international community as a whole, with all actors, not only state actors, but with all actors. And I think the letters are there, the concept of mutirão, his idea of the need to use Bonn as an opportunity to move the negotiations forward, a number of other issues that he has addressed in those letters, which I hope you will look and pay attention to. Ambassador André Corrêa do Lago and his team have strongly indicated that we need implementation. So no new commitments, no new alliances, no new initiatives. We need to implement what we have agreed, both at the normative level and also in terms of action agenda. So we need to do that. Please think about this idea of implementation, and implementation. Ambassador André Corrêa do Lago has also highlighted the need that we address the GST, the global stock taking, as let's say, as our frame in which implementation needs to be addressed from the action agenda perspective. And I think this is an important indication. I invite you to read or reread, if you have done so, the global stock taking and look within the global stock taking of what addresses these two agendas that are of interest to us, the multi-level action and the urban solutions, let's call it that way, as that's the title of Philip's envoy responsibility. I hope I have been interesting enough. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is the extent of what I can share with you. On the 21st, if you want, once we hear what André has said in Bonn, I can come back and give you additional explanations if needed. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. Ambassador Da Costa, it's all music to our ears, and we are so delighted and so privileged to have such a strong ally inside the presidency and the ministry. And that is also what we have been expecting. Since the 1992, Brazil has hosted the Rio Plus 20, which was an, again, milestone. And now the climate debate is back into Brazil, and we really believe it will give us a new opportunity for a new era of climate action. As you said, it's not the end, it's just the kickoff of the next phase. If you are able to join us, we will be more than happy. We will share with your agenda in Bonn. We will also go through very briefly our vision, our response to the letter. But more importantly, our colleagues here, Ambassador Da Costa will be in Bonn from 16th to 19th in a number of opportunities in daring cities and UNFCCC events, so we can continue the discussion. Now, let me continue. As mentioned by Ambassador Da Costa, the vision that we have discussed with all our partners over the past couple of weeks, now we are branded as our vision letter, which is a response to the presidency's letter. It is based on 3 pillars: before Belém, in Belém, and beyond Belém. So you will see how much we are aligned with Ambassador Da Costa and the COP30 presidency. When we say before Belém, it is exactly what we are working towards, bringing the results so that we deliver our homework, because the decisions at the capitals is the one that will shape the future. When we say in Belém, the negotiations to bring this, the discussions, action agenda and negotiations, and topics like informality, just transition, building trust for the climate finance, and making this urban finance connected to these discussions will be our key. And our space, as been discussed, will be the base for us for throughout the 2 weeks of this COP. And beyond Belém, the negotiations will not be finishing, but in fact, together with the UN80, there will be new opportunities for innovative ways of engagement and a governance of both urbanization and governance of the global environmental goals will be a topic, and we would like to be part of it. Especially on the way to Belém, we are in touch with Ambassador Da Costa, Minister of Cities, the new elected Habitat President, Malaysian Minister of Urbanization, to make sure that we replicate the ministerials that we have been hosting in the past 4 years at the national level, so that the debate is not just a diplomatic debate, but especially the national NDCs can be discussed with our urban partners, and maybe these examples can bring the results to Belém and demonstrate an input to the discussions in Belém. We would like to see our innovations like town hall COPs bringing added value to these discussions, so that bottom-up initiatives and inclusive actions are also reflected into the new plans. In that sense, we will be making sure that this position will be the key of our presence in Bonn. So when we say SP62, this is a regular meeting, but why this year it is important? One from the global perspective and one from the LGMA perspective. Globally, as we discussed, there is an unfinished business. Let's remember, in Baku, the negotiations were almost stalled. Some of the countries were saying that we will not make 1 inch of progress in the stocktake if you don't give us the commitment for climate finance. $1.3 trillion for annually from public and private sources, But this means many of the topics that were postponed will now has to be discussed in Bonn. So that will be a huge pressure, and we will make sure that there's progress on that, including the Global Stocktake Dialogue, including mitigation work program, others. Second, there is a growing rise of skepticism across the world. This meeting that we will be seeing is the first time the UN nations, how they will be respond the void that is left by the United States. In the first couple of months of this year, there were a lot of concerns that this will be really detrimental. But as we have seen in Rome in the biodiversity negotiations, as we have seen in Geneva in the pandemic negotiations, sometimes there's this new shakeup could help. And when there were less engagement from the US delegation, the parties were able to make progress. We don't know how this will happen in Bonn. That will be an agenda that we'll all look for. And the third, we have heard from presidency the letters, the delegations, but all these were informal dialogues in in Petersburg, in Berlin, in Copenhagen. These discussions were not on the table as an official position. So if we receive in Bonn a very positive response to the presidency, Ambassador Delago, Minister Filio, and Ambassador da Costa, and climate champions, Dan Yoshpe and others, can be much more aggressively built the way forward towards Belém. That's why Bonn success is important. For LGMA, we will test whether our initiatives like the multi-level NDCs are proving to be a success. And we will see the good practices from champ endorsing countries like Kenya, countries like Japan, Canada. We will hear how they have been benefiting this multi-level collaboration and to encourage others to come on board. We will also see how we can step up our muturao, our own commitments, a new way of work. The town hall COPs, examples from Turkey, from Australia up to South Africa and Brazil and the US, we will bring these results, and we'll also discuss how we can raise our emissions through subnational transition adaptation plans. And finally, the debates in Bonn will give us the confidence that we can bring innovative ideas into the governance processes, that we can make sure it is not a one-off event, but it is a continuity. If you can look at this chart, this shows the full day-to-day agenda of Bonn. Here you can say there is official negotiations. There will be adaptation indicators discussion, a gender workshop, food workshop, non-market approaches, ocean and finance discussions. We will have global stocktake agenda. We will intervene as usual. Some of those engagement mechanisms are just being circulated. So we will be updating the LGMA community through our emails and the bulletins as well in the next couple of days. I mean, we're talking about tomorrow and on Friday. From LGMA side, the first 3 days, we will have Daring Cities. Daring Cities is the opportunity that brings all our constituency into this debate. We will have sessions inside the UNFCCC. Our daily, instead of a daily briefing, we will have on Monday a briefing. Our LGMA intervention will be delivered by the Extraordinary Secretary of COP30, Belém Extraordinary Secretary. We will have a discussion on Rio Conventions. Champ partners, the national governments who have been signed up to Champ, they will get together to have their country contact groups as well as their focal points dialogue on Tuesday, where Ambassador da Costa will also be engaging and in dialogues as well. We will have our side events inside UNFCCC, and on Wednesday, the full day, we will be at the GIZ auditorium to hear these kind of experiments, and especially it will also be webcasted so that others can join us. On the Tuesday evening, we will also have the reception at the Bonn Alte Stadthaus, the old town hall, where we will have Ambassador da Costa, Brazilian local and subnational leaders, German government as the host, as well as Dan Yoshpe, the climate action champion. From the presidency side, there will be a subnationals dialogue, there will be mutual discussion, logistics will be presented, and when most of the delegations are going towards Paris, there will be also the additional discussions in Bonn. So several of us will stay in Bonn on duty, and several of us will go to Paris and London. When we look at the delegation, we see a diversity of leaders from across the world, from Adelaide, Australia to Minas Gerais, from Tianjin in China to Kitakyushu, Japan, to Malmö in Sweden, to Coral Springs in the US and Rio Grande do Sul. They will be coming as environment secretaries, mayors, or governors to this discussion. We have staff level representation or high level executive level representation from cities like Niterói, Izmir, Muğla, Scotland, San Antonio, Rosario, and these are the ones that will also be expanding our discussions, as well as Quebec and Montreal as well. And networks, traditional partners will also be joined. We will have other colleagues like South African Local Government Association joining us as well. I will not go into the details because we have covered the full agenda, but I would like to invite my colleagues from the LGMA working groups, especially the multi-level action, the communications and adaptation groups, to provide us the results that we have advanced over the past few weeks, so that we will bring these into the negotiations that you have seen in the full weeks of 2 weeks in Bonn. Whom I can invite at the first round? Is Ariel or Amalia in line, or Heloise? Let's see. In the morning, we had Amalia, Heloise, and Ariel. All of three were in the call. I see today in this afternoon call, Amalia here. She has raised her hand. Amalia, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Eunice, and hi everyone. I think there was a slide. I'm not sure if Ariel, you're able to share the same ones that we had this morning, but I just wanted to say that we had a really fantastic first meeting of the LGMA Multi-Level Action and CHAMP Working Group a couple of weeks ago, which I chair. I'm Amelia Dimon from Global Covenant of Mayors, for those who haven't met me, and I co-chair that with Toby Walker from Under2, and he covers sort of the states and regions side. And we discussed effectively what we think the work activities of the working group could be in 2025. So yes, you can see them on the screen now. So really it's an additional place for knowledge exchange within LGMA, discussing tactics for securing successful multi-level action, and the opportunity to develop a negotiation position for COP30, which will feed into the sort of LGMA wider position, and as Eunice mentioned, builds on that vision letter. So we'll be coming to Bonn to discuss with the constituency and begin to discuss with national governments. I know the team have been in touch with the presidency as well about, you know, some of these initial ideas. And I'd like to just flag that we'll be holding an informal coffee hour during Bonn on Friday the 20th in the morning. Just Toby and I, we're going to pitch up at a cafe somewhere, and if anyone would like to come and discuss what they've heard during the week, we'll then take stock, and we can take that forward into week 2 of Bonn, or for colleagues that are travelling to London or Paris, they can take that forward as well. Thanks so much, and back to you, Eunice. And please do get in touch with me in the chat or over email if you would like to join the working group. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Amelia. And indeed, this will be the opportunity for us to share all these with the negotiators and other partners. And we are also very happy that we will share these ideas with the Brazilian presidency so that they can also take up forward. Ariel, the communications group also had their first meeting, so let's hear from you.
That's right, we did. So we met last week for the first time. I have a bit about that meeting here. But first off, just to say why do we have a comms working group? The goal of the comms working group is really to, of course, support directly the goals of the LGMA, which Eunice has gone over already. And then just to kind of add a layer of additional understanding to that, and kind of how I am approaching that sort of as a working group. So obviously we want to work closely with our advocacy and diplomacy colleagues to create this unified comms approach. And I think also it's important to say that obviously the LGMA as a constituency, you know, does not for instance, have its own social media channels. We have other channels, and we went over that, what those standing channels are in the call. But you know, some of the ways that we at ICLEI have chosen to kind of point our limited resources means that we had to say no to other things. And so the question for this working group is to figure out how we can fill in some of the gaps that that we at ICLEI either are not able to provide, or you know, can draw on the strengths of other members of the constituency. And then beyond, of course, that gap filling, this opportunity to kind of not only bring a unified message across all of the members of the constituency and friends of the constituency as well, but to actually raise up the individual messages of the networks and other organizations that are a part of the constituency. So not to say like we're all going to go out with the same message here, but to really have a kind of more nuanced approach that allows for the organizations to also focus on the primary messaging, whether you're coming at this from a financing lens or from a national association lens, or you know, other ways that much of the constituency is approaching the work that we do. And then the final thing I wanted to acknowledge is that the co-chairs of the other two kind of related working groups that I'm at least a part of, I'm sure there are other related groups. So the Champ Comms breakout group, Champ Partner Comms breakout group, and the GCOM Communications Working Group, both of their chairs are also participating in this call. So the hope here is that we're really going to create kind of aligned and complementary work streams where we're each either you know, creating work plans that address different audiences, or having messages that are very kind of aligned but not duplicating the work between the groups, acknowledging that many people are participating in 1, 2, or 3 of the groups. So yes, going back to our first meeting last week, you can see the attendance that we had here. Great attendance across a wide variety of kind of type of participant within the constituency, which I really am glad to see that, because one of the questions I'm really trying to answer is, again, acknowledging the kind of limited resources that we have, what are the best ways for us to empower everyone in the constituency to bring out the messages that we have, and what are the sort of best use of our time and collective work. And so some of the initial recommendations that we got was focusing on really translating the complexity of the work into kind of ways that our spokespeople can really own the message. And so how do we get from, you know, the highly complex negotiators language into the mouths kind of you know, various target audiences? And the one that was focused on within this meeting was elected officials who might be part of networks, or speaking on behalf of the constituency, and others who would be in that position. Another kind of or two more sort of initial recommendations is to really look at how we can facilitate an operationalization of the LGMA position with the drafting committee. So getting their feedback on, you know, how they're using the position, and what other kind of structures or assets that we need to create to support that. And then finally, to expand our communications tactics to more completely include media outreach, because that has been kind of a weaker side of our approach in the past. So we will be meeting basically for the rest of the year until excluding August, until COP. And then some of the key moments that we've identified between now and COP are listed here. And of course, you know, many things in between, but these would be the ones where we would try to have different initiatives going. So I'll stop there. And of course, we're still looking for, sorry, I won't stop there. We are still looking, you know, I know there were several folks who weren't able to make the meeting. So certainly, if you know, if this resonates with you, and either with you or someone in your organization would like to attend, please, you know, the invitation is still open to join in July, and I'll circulate the readout from the meeting in last week, probably after Daring Cities. Thanks.
Indeed. Thank you, Ariel. We have really enjoyed the benefit of our communications colleagues to exactly make sure our messages are reaching to the right audience and to the right concept, so that it is digested appropriately. We will continue this practice, and I'm very happy that we are improving our capacity in every year, so that we are getting better and better. We in the morning also heard from our colleagues on adaptation working group. There is this, of course, we are talking about, there's a number of roadmaps, Baku Belem, but they are different Baku Belem roadmaps. One of them is on this $1.3 trillion, how this money will be raised, especially at the time when the national governments are reducing the global development finance budgets. But there's another Baku Belem roadmap, which is the adaptation indicators. The global goal on adaptation is focusing on indicators. In Bonn, the first day will be a workshop, and we will try to make sure that we can intervene. We will have several delegations, both from the parties, but also from the LGMA constituency. We will have discussions on food. There will be really the first time discussions on food in this round. This will be further followed by financing food systems in a separate meeting by the Standing Committee on Finance in September in Rome. I particularly want to address this because I see Arthur Getz Scudero, from our dear colleague from the UN Habitat community. This is exactly the moment that food community, culture, informality are all getting together with the climate agenda. That's why Belém is so important. So we would like to make sure that we can also make these impacts and feeding into our national and local plans. My colleague Carlos is also here in this line. We will see how we can discuss this $1.3 trillion, because let's be realistic. In addition to Baku 1.3 trillion, another 200 billion was committed in Rome from the urban finance process. This is the Cali Fund. But the reality is that both biodiversity and the climate decisions are primarily in the hands of the ministers of environment. And no minister of environment in the world is controlling this $1.3 trillion budgets. In fact, it is the hands of the governments who are leading their budgets, which is the finance ministers. So it's important that climate, biodiversity, urban community speak to the finance community. And that's the importance of the Seville conference, because the last one was 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, there was no multi-level action on the table. There was never a discussion on climate commitments. So the success of the climate, urban, and sustainability committee now has to demonstrate its results from other processes, so that our commitments can be delivered all together and through a whole of government and whole of society approach. So these are the topics that will all come in Bonn and beyond. We still have 10 more minutes. I'm more than happy if our colleagues would like to intervene. I particularly want to put a highlight to Ursula Kasperek, especially. She was leading the LGMA delegation in Panama. Ursula, if you're in a position that is comfortable, feel free to come in so that you can also share, because Panama was the first time. It was not just a regional event, it was a global climate event. The next one will be in Africa, and we know there will be several reflections from Panama to Bonn, and Ulla was there throughout the whole week. Ulla, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, thanks very much, Yunus. And I don't know why I can't put my video on, so I'm just gonna you're just gonna hear my voice. Yes, so Panama Climate Week, for those of you who may not know, was the first one in a new format. In the past, the Climate Weeks were very much a celebration of a regional progress and activities, and a lot of side events were happening throughout the week, where local organizations were able to showcase their action on the ground, and a lot of spotlight was given to the activities at the regional level. This year, the Climate Weeks have been changed slightly, well, slightly, or it's significantly depending how you look at it, but they changed to the format that's global, and that is bringing together all of the stakeholders around certain topics and around certain mandated events. So this year, the Climate Week featured the mitigation work program discussions, just transition work program discussions, the global goal on adaptation indicator discussions, and there was one on I'm forgetting the third one, but I will remember it in a second. And there are also been new components such as implementation forum, for example, which is what very much speaks to this desire to move from negotiations to implementation and create a space where stakeholders can discuss, how do we actually implement all of those commitments and ambition that has been championed throughout all of the years. And finally, there was also an NDC clinic component where UNDP, UNEP, and NDC partnership led 3 segments devoted to different components such as private sector engagement or investment and implementability of the NDCs. And I think, you know, we have been able to mobilize a few subnational governments to participate. For example, Mayor of Guadalajara have been able to travel, and she provided interventions in some of the discussions as well. But I would say that space was probably not as open as it was in the past to some of the components of the local implementation. By nature, we had a lot of participation from the Latin America stakeholders due to the proximity, but I think there was a bit of a missing element in terms of sharing the local practices and connecting those local stakeholders. So that's certainly something that I hope we can have developed further around Africa Climate Week. I think the global component is really interesting, and the fact that all of the mandated events are at the same time, so the people who actually negotiate those matters are around the people who are implementing on the ground. I think that has been extremely helpful and valuable to have those smaller conversations and really be able to have space to make those discussions happen, you know, in a slightly more intimate and sort of relaxed manner than you would have at the Bonn or COP. You know, it is actually slightly more conducive to meaningful conversations, I'd say. But I do believe that perhaps we can strengthen slightly the components of, you know, the regional representation, regional storytelling, because I think that it has been there, but I think the local communities have been missing this opportunity to showcase the good work that they're doing in that bigger space. And then finally, I think this community has really a lot to offer in terms of implementation and action. So I would encourage us to sort of offer ourselves as a resource to colleagues who work on the Africa Climate Week. I don't think the location has been announced yet, but once the host has been announced, I think we can rally around, you know, how can we actually facilitate a format that is even further conducing the implementation and support, you know, a structure that can help in securing deals or whatever it is that is helpful to move forward with the implementation component, because I think amongst ourselves here, we have done quite a few of those formats in the past that have been successful. So whatever we can bring and learn from each other and offer up in that spirit of Montreal, I think that would be extremely valuable. So those are just a few of my reflections, and I hope that's helpful. But if you have any further questions, I'm happy to chat with everyone.
Thank you, Ula. Thank you, Ula. Indeed, let's remember this Climate Weeks was a legacy from the Kyoto Protocol era, where the clean development mechanism focal points were meeting together and trying to share experience about how to design these CDM projects. And later on, it gradually evolved into an opportunity that it's more topics on the UNFCCC implementation of the action agenda, also with investments, and then expanded further. Last year, unfortunately, they were all canceled because lack of resources. And we said that this was a pity, because giving the opportunity for the negotiators to meet in between is a good thing. Therefore, we were very happy when Panama stood up and hosted this. And one of the things we're also discussing, as you all know, this discussion, to have it regional level is not enough. It has to go to the national and local level. That's why we're bringing this town hall COPs, and that's why we're trying to advance the idea of national editions of urban and climate ministerial. So let's make sure climate debates is spread 12 months in the society level, so that the COPs are fed with these results, and they can also say that the decisions adopted here gets ownership. You have mentioned about a number of processes, and there we will follow up, but one of the most important meetings will happen is that mitigation work program, as you mentioned, in Panama, it focused on forestry, but in the fall season, which is around October, it will focus on waste and circularity, which is also a topic that really speaks to ICTE and many of the LGMA, many of the local and subnational governments in terms of plastic treaty, in terms of resource efficiency, in terms of sustainable lifestyle. So the negotiators are choosing the topics that will becomes much more relevant for them to learn from our experience, as exactly you have said. And for these type of meetings, we hope there will be opportunities for our participation in time, in terms of resources, in terms of connections, and make sure that these are appropriately designed and feed into the end of the year, the COP decisions. So 3 more minutes to go. I see one question from Eva from CMR about the LGMA position, whether it was still draft or not. Eva, as you have noticed, it was originally 1 month ago in our webinar, we were calling it as LGMA joint position 0 draft. But the drafting committee also said that maybe it's too early to say that it is a position as such, because we rather explain how we approach or how we respond to the presidency's call for Michirao. We were saying that how will we engage in the national level, how will we bring town hall COPs. So we said that it's better to turn it into COP30 vision letter of LGMA, and that this is now publicly available. You see the website. It is 2-page document. It is not complicated as such. Therefore, you don't have to call it as a position as such. But this describes how we want to engage in our countries, in Belém, and how we want to take forward beyond Belém through the negotiations. As we said, technical annexes will be on the way, from finance to just transition, from informality to urban nature or other topics in the negotiations. We'll provide our positions or contributions to this, as Ambassador Dako said, solutions to the new era, and these will be the ones that will come after Bonn discussions are concluded. We will also shape this discussion about when presidency announces their way they would like to design Belém in terms of physical presence, in terms of thematic discussions. That will also give us the guidance so that our then decisions can be shaped with this now basic expectations. Okay, I'm happy that you're happy. That's great, and thanks for all your contributions. You were also instrumental in shaping this the position, and we will especially look forward to your contribution, because together with European partners, together with the Committee of the Regions, in October we'll also make a European town hall COP. That will also be the moment where you could influence the European NDCs, and that's something that we need, because from the global north we have to show more leadership and to make sure that there may be setbacks from some countries, but majority of global north is still part of the ambitious track, and that is exactly the hook that will connect the global south to build trust and making sure that it is a joint journey and everybody has their own share to contribute. 1 more minute to go. I think we reached to a saturation. I see some of our colleagues also leaving the call. Thank you all. You will receive the updates together with our website for the SP62. That will be also uploaded tomorrow onwards. We will share with you additional information on the LGMA agenda in Bonn. For those who are present, we will make sure we are connected on WhatsApp and other tools. Make sure you are registered to Daring Cities so that you can receive updates. And we will cover all these in our monthly bulletin at the end of the month and continue in the way forward. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.